Therapy Chat Podcast, episode 164.
This is the Therapy Chat Podcast with Laura Reagan, LCSW-C. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. And now, here's your host, Laura Reagan, LCSW-C.
Today's episode is sponsored by Therapy Notes. When it comes to keeping your practice organized, you want software that's not only simple, but the best. I recommend Therapy Notes. Their platform lets you manage notes, claims, scheduling, and more. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone and email support, so when you have a question, they're there to help. To get 2 free months of Therapy Notes today, just use the promo code TherapyChat when you sign up for a free trial at www.therapynotes.com. Therapy Chat Podcast wouldn't exist without the support of its listeners. If you'd like to become a member, please go to patreon.com/therapychat. By making a $1 per month donation, you can help Therapy Chat keep going over the long haul. Thank you for your support. Hi, welcome back to Therapy Chat. Welcome to the first episode of 2019. This is our New Year's greeting. How are you all doing? By the time you're listening to this, it's January 4th, I believe. Let's see. January 3rd or 4th, depending on where you are when this comes out. So I hope you had a nice winter holiday season wherever your holidays happen to fall in the month of December, or if they didn't, you may not celebrate any of the December holidays. But for me, it's always a time of rest and reflection, last 2 weeks of December. So today I wanted to do a little kind of year in review. I'm not going to talk about every single episode of the last year, but just some of the things that have been happening over the year and what's coming up in 2019. And I am, as last year, not focusing on New Year's resolutions, but instead I'm doing intentions for the new year. I think some of the intentions I had for last year, I may have done a good job of implementing them, like more self-care. I definitely focused a lot on self-care this year, and the more I focused on it, the more I knew how much I needed it. It's like once you start paying attention to the need that you've been neglecting for so long, you realize just how deep that need is and how depleted you have been. And then you have to do more and more to kind of fill the need. But that's okay. I think that it's worth it. The payoff is more ease, and we can all use more ease. So some of the cool things that happened in 2018, we had a couple of sponsors who gave us support during the year, and we also had our new Patreon membership opportunity, as well as merchandise to be available to you, Therapy Chat listeners. We have t-shirts, stickers, and mugs. Patreon members who contribute $2 or more are eligible to receive some of those merchandise items as part of their membership, depending on what they signed up for. And you can find out about that by going on patreon.com/therapychat if you're interested. I have my wonderful editor, Pete, who produces every episode, makes it sound its best, and cuts out a lot of the extraneous stuff. And this year in 2018, I added an assistant who is helping me now with some of the podcast work to take a little bit of it off of my shoulders and make it run a little more smoothly and more efficiently, basically. So starting in 2019, we are going to be sending out weekly newsletters every week, the whole year, that include the latest episode. that's something that, I tried to do a little bit over the past year, but it was really hard to keep up with it. Every time I turned back to it, I found that months had gone by. So having my new assistant with that is going to be very helpful. And some of the cool things that happened in 2018 are that Therapy Chat was nominated for a Brighter Vision Therapist Resources Award, which was really an honor. That's the first time that's happened. And I was really appreciative to be in the good company of so many other therapists who do podcasts, blogs, and other practice building work and such. And although Therapy Chat did not win, I appreciate everyone who voted. And just being nominated was a really special honor. Shout out to Joe Sanok from Practice of the Practice, who won in almost every category, although there were a few other winners as well. But one of the really, really, really big, exciting, huge, amazing, unbelievable things that happened in 2018 happened right at the end of the year when Therapy Chat was featured in an article in Psychotherapy Networker magazine in November-December issue. That was unreal to me because Psychotherapy Networker is a magazine in which all of the great minds in the therapy world contribute meaningful discussions and information about therapy. And really, I can't imagine how my name would ever have been mentioned in that magazine. I think I'm a pretty darn good therapist, but I just don't have that kind of, name recognition to be in Psychotherapy Networker. And the fact that they found us with Therapy Chat and included Therapy Chat in an article about therapy podcasts was really amazing for me. If you'd like to read that article, there will be a link in the description of the show. So you don't have to pay to read the article. You don't have to have a subscription. Another cool thing that happened was that Therapy Chat was featured in an article in the online magazine Bustle, which has a pretty large readership, and it was pretty amazing to be found there. That article is also in the resources and the show notes, and it was an article about podcasts by mental health professionals, which can help with self-care, and Therapy Chat was the first one they listed, so I was very appreciative of that. So another thing that's going on is that I am really committing to doing courses and webinars in 2019 on topics that you, the listeners, want to hear more about. Some of the topics that I'm considering doing courses or webinars about include trauma-sensitive work with survivors of sexual violence. I know so many people who are survivors of sexual violence. It's the majority of the people who I see in my practice have that experience in their background. And, it's affected myself, and it seems like it's affected almost everyone I know. But I am sad to see that so many therapists don't seem to have a lot of skill or really trauma-sensitive approach in working with survivors of sexual violence. Just so many therapists seem to be unaware of the particular issues of this population. And considering how common the experience of sexual violence is in our culture, it's just unbelievable to me that so many therapists lack this training. But then again, I started out working with survivors of sexual violence before I was a therapist. So to me, it's like, shouldn't everyone know about this? But not everyone starts out that way, and certainly was barely covered in my MSW program. So I'm sure that's true for many people who are therapists now. But it's extremely important because saying the wrong thing and doing the wrong thing and being insensitive can really be re-traumatizing for survivors of sexual violence and just make a major barrier for that person in being able to trust the therapist. And it's also true in other helping professions, medical professionals, dental professionals who work with survivors of sexual violence every day, whether they know it or not. the way they respond can be re-traumatizing. And it's extremely important to be trauma sensitive in working with people who have been through that. Of course, it's important to be trauma sensitive in working with any survivors of trauma. And there's some basic things that any professional who's in a helping capacity can do in their work with trauma survivors that can make a huge difference in how that person experiences the care they're receiving. But I'm strongly leaning towards making a course on that subject of particularly working with survivors of sexual violence, because I've just heard so many horror stories of how a survivor shared something with their therapist about their experience of sexual assault or sexual abuse or sexual harassment and received a really insensitive response that just, made them think, I can never trust this person again. I don't even know if I want to see them anymore. And it has a huge impact. It's extremely important. And I feel that I know how to talk about that really well. So I think that there's a need for it. And I'm hoping that people will find it helpful. So I'm planning on doing that and some other things about, working in a trauma sensitive way with people who've experienced various types of traumatization, childhood, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect. And trauma survivors are not just, it's not a blanket description of all people. And of course, everybody has different experiences and different ways that they feel following traumatic experiences. But at the same time, there are certain common characteristics of people who've experienced various types of trauma that, first of all, if the person knows that these are common characteristics of having experienced that, it can help them feel that they understand why they feel the way they do. But also for therapists, it's what's helpful for one person may be completely unhelpful for a different person. So I think that there's really a need for this. Whether you're a therapist or a member of the general public who would like to weigh in on your thoughts about these possible courses and webinars that I'm talking about creating, there's a link in the description of the show that you'll see when you listen on your phone or online that is an anonymous survey that I'm asking people to give me input. Does this sound valuable to you? Is it something that you think is needed, or do you think that this already exists? I haven't seen it anywhere. But, is this already out there? Does pretty much everyone know about this, or is there a gap? I think there is. So I'd like to hear what you think, and also about any other topics that you would like me to cover that maybe have been discussed on Therapy Chat and you would like more in-depth discussion. I'd be happy to explore that. If it's something that I don't know that much about, obviously I'm not going to try to create a course on it, because obviously someone else would be better to talk about that than me. But, there are a lot of things that I would like to share information that I think could be really helpful. And, with a course or a webinar, you can reach a different group of people in a more in-depth way than you can on a podcast. So please look for that link if you're interested in contributing your input. I would love to know what you think. If you don't feel like doing the survey, you can also use the SpeakPipe link on the website, therapychatpodcast.com, and just leave me a message about it. Just tell me what you think. I always love hearing from you. So they will be happening in 2019, courses and webinars. Mark my words. That's my intention. Other topics that I plan on covering this year on Therapy Chat include, based on some requests, I'm going to talk more about integrative health and chronic illness, including my own little journey that I'm on right now, somatic psychotherapy practices, and more on other types of bottom-up approaches, including art therapy and EMDR. Also, some have asked to hear more about ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. We did have one episode on that, but certainly there's more to say about that. It's not my specialty area, but I'm interested in learning more about it, like you are, those who've asked. And working with children who've experienced trauma, or if you're parenting children who've experienced trauma, One topic that I love talking about, but I don't know how much people love hearing about, is parenting a child who has experienced trauma when you also are a trauma survivor. I think there's a huge need for talking about this because it's like something that many people are affected by their own experiences of trauma and then having their child experience a trauma. And yet people don't really talk about it. It seems like there's a lot of missing information out there about that. So I would love to talk more about that. I've done a couple interviews on other people's podcasts and video platforms about that subject, but happy to talk more about it and maybe do a course or webinar about that if people are interested. And people are asking me to go a little deeper beyond the basics and on some of the topics that we've covered on Therapy Chat. And I do want to do that, but it is hard to go too deep on a short podcast. So that is, again, where courses and webinars can meet that need. Another thing I'll be talking more about in 2019 is depathologizing mental health symptoms and syndromes, disorders like narcissism, borderline personality disorder, and some of the other things that are really in the common vernacular right now. I'm hearing so much about narcissism lately, and I think that it's being presented in a way that's kind of black and white, and it's really missing a compassionate view because, I think there's a reason why people behave the way they do. Nothing gives anyone permission to abuse someone else, but some of the ways that narcissism is being portrayed in kind of the pop culture world is really overly simplistic, I think, and not necessarily that helpful. For the person who is in relationship with that other person who they are seeing as being a narcissist, it's not helpful. And it kind of, inflates the so-called narcissist person as being like some kind of, other than human. And that's never good because we're all human. We all can make mistakes and we all can treat others with cruelty and violence under the right circumstances. And I say that knowing that I'm a person who's very committed to nonviolence, but I'm sure that under the right circumstances, that would be different. And never disregard the fact that sometimes our violence is turned towards ourselves. We may consider ourselves very nonviolent, but yet the things we say and do to ourselves are violent and abusive. So something to think about. We'll talk about that more in the future. So in 2019, we've got a new sponsor coming on board. So you'll be hearing about them. And I'm very excited about that partnership, which is allowing me to have my assistant to help with the podcast. So hopefully it can really be at a better level in this year ahead and reach more people, which is always the goal. And I wanted to give you a little update on my health journey that I've mentioned a couple times recently. I was telling you that I kind of had to slow down and make some changes because of some health issues that popped up for me. And I think I talked about this a little bit recently in a past episode, but I realized that the effects of these health issues, which were very acute back in October, have actually been with me for probably 10 years. And I wasn't really noticing them, or if I noticed, I didn't know what they were about and didn't connect them with the issues that I've been having now. But one of our wonderful listeners who's a Patreon supporter, Abby, recommended to me this book called The 4-Pillar Plan: How to Relax, Eat, Move, Sleep Your Way to a Longer, Healthier Life by Dr. Reagan Chatterjee. And this Dr. Chatterjee is a UK-based physician who wrote this book, and he's like an integrative physician. And he talks about these 4 pillars, the 4 elements to improve your health and your life. And it's well in line with what my holistic practitioners have recommended to me to help me recover from these health issues. So he has these 4 pillars are relax, eat, move, and sleep. And he talks about under relax, me time every day, a weekly screen-free Sabbath. That sounds hard. Keep a gratitude journal, a daily practice of stillness, and eat 1 meal per day around a table without a device, an e-device. That's under relax. Then eat, denormalize sugar, eat 5 different vegetables every day, eat all your food within a 12-hour window, drink 8 glasses of water per day, unprocess your diet by avoiding any food product that contains more than 5 ingredients. And then under move, walk at least 10,000 steps per day. Sadly, as a therapist, I spend most of my day sitting in a chair. Sometimes I move only like 300 steps. That's not good. Do a form of strength training twice a week. Do a form of high intensity interval training twice a week. Make a habit of movement snacking. Not sure what that is, but it's in the book. Do daily glute exercises to help wake them up. I can do that. Even with my sitting life, I can do squats. And then sleep. Create an environment of absolute darkness. Spend at least 20 minutes outside every morning. I guess that must help with sleep. Create a bedtime routine. Manage your commotion and enjoy your caffeine before noon. So I like this idea of the 4 pillars that you can just make the changes in one of the areas first, and it's very succinct what the changes are. And then it's also nice to see that you may already be doing some of them. I mean, me time every day, I might be doing that. Keeping a gratitude journal, I'm not doing, but I want to do that. Daily practice of stillness is definitely an intention of mine, but it's helpful to remind yourself to actually do it. And I think I eat 1 meal a day around a table without a device. I don't have my phone with me when I eat dinner, and I always sit at the table with my husband or my family. And drinking 8 glasses of water a day is not too hard to implement, no matter how, hectic your life is. So the book has way more than that. That's just the 4 pillars. He goes into much more depth. He talks about breathing, your gut health, inflammation, hip exercises, a lot of things. It's a really good book. I haven't read the whole thing. It has some really nice photos too. So I'm thankful to Abby for turning me on to that book. And there's another book that I think I mentioned recently, but I'm not sure if I did. I think I did, by Aviva Romm, Dr. Aviva Romm, that's called The Adrenal Thyroid Revolution. So that is what is causing the issues for me. And I know this is common for many people, particularly women, but men too, in our high stress culture, and especially for people with childhood trauma. So, and as the ACEs study tells us, there are not too many people who don't have some childhood trauma. So currently I have kind of procrastinated, you might say, on getting the blood work done that the functional medicine doctor has told me to do. I kind of thought I might get it done over my holiday break, but I didn't. Just seems really hard to do the fast to a certain time, then 4 times per day with a certain interval window, measure this and spit into this thing and stuff. And then you have to keep it, but don't keep it for more than 24 hours. You're going to take it to the lab. So it shouldn't be that hard, but it seems really hard to me, and I haven't done it yet. So I think, I did talk about avoidance in a recent episode, and I think I'm kind of avoiding that a little bit. I shouldn't be, and I kind of am. But I will say that I'm very, very happy to report that the supplements that my other holistic practitioner gave me before I met with the functional medicine doctor have been really, really helping my symptoms significantly improve. I thought I was going to have to really cut back on working or something, which is very distressing to me. And fortunately, I feel a lot better with these supplements. And so I'm going to keep taking them. And then eventually I'll get that blood work done and find out really what are the levels of my this and that, cortisol, adrenaline, all these different thyroid measures, other stuff. I'm not sure what it's all measuring. It's a whole bunch of stuff. But that's where that is. So I'll keep you posted on that. And I think that, that experience of having those symptoms really convinced me to look at things differently, even with my clients, because, I think I mentioned this before, but when I started reading that book by Dr. Aviva Romm, I realized that a lot of the symptoms that she mentioned in her book are symptoms that are commonly brought up by my clients. So I've told a few of my clients about the book now, and they've all said that they appreciated hearing about it because it's like a piece that we all weren't looking at. So that is what being an integrative mental health practice is about, is looking at nutrition and your body systems, your hormones, everything that's happening. It's not just, your brain and your mental health. It's all connected, obviously. That's about all I have to share for today. I'm going off to do my New Year celebration with some good friends and my husband. And I hope that you are having an evening that is whatever you want it to be, and that you feel positive going into 2019, or you feel however you feel. All feelings are welcome. And I will be talking to you soon. Thanks again to our new sponsor. You'll hear about them on this episode, Therapy Notes. Thank you so much for being my partner in 2019. And that's about it. So look for links in the show notes for Therapy Notes and all of the resources that I mentioned in today's episode. Therapy Chat merchandise, the 4 Pillars book, Patreon, if you wanted to support on Patreon. Also, the link to the survey about webinars and courses is there too. And probably a few other things. So, Happy New Year. I'll be talking with you soon. Our next episode is going to be my interview with Dr. Gretchen Schmelzer about her book, Journey Through Trauma, which is a beautiful book about the process of trauma therapy. And I thought we had a really great interview, so I can't wait for you to hear it. Thanks so much and take care. There are many ways to keep your practice organized, but Therapy Notes is the best. Their easy-to-use, secure platform lets you not only do your billing, scheduling, and progress notes, but also create a client portal to share documents and request signatures. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone support, so when you have a question, you can get help fast. To get started with the practice management software trusted by over 60,000 professionals, go to therapynotes.com and start a free trial today. If you enter promo code TherapyChat, they will give you 2 months to try it out for free. Just another reminder that if you'd like to become a member of Therapy Chat, supporting the podcast while receiving fun member perks and being able to communicate with me one-on-one, go to patreon.com/therapychat. If every subscriber donated just $1 per month, Therapy Chat would be able to keep going strong indefinitely. Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you for listening to Therapy Chat with your host, Laura Reagan, LCSW-C. For more information, please visit therapychatpodcast.com.